The office boardroom buzzed with anticipation. Stacks of papers lined the polished table, and the company's senior staff sat in sharp suits, ready to pitch to a visiting investor. But in the corner of the room sat a man few even noticed, Ethan Reyes. 28 years old, quiet, often overlooked. His shirt was plain, his tie a little too worn, and his notebook filled with scribbles no one cared to read. Yet inside that notebook was an idea, one that could change everything. "All right, let's get started," barked Mr. Jonathan Blake, the CEO, a man in his late 50s with silver hair, an expensive suit, and the air of someone who believed respect was his birthright. Ethan raised his hand hesitantly. "Sir, before we begin, I've been working on a strategy that could—" Blake cut him off instantly, his voice sharp, dismissive. "Not now, Reyes. Leave the big ideas to people who know what they're doing." A few chuckles echoed around the table. Ethan's cheeks burned, but he stayed silent. He had seen this before, his words dismissed, his efforts belittled. But what no one realized was that this nobody they mocked was about to outshine them all. The presentation dragged on, slide after slide, charts and projections. Yet nothing seemed to impress the investor, a poised woman in her 40s named Ms. Catherine Liu. She listened politely, but her face revealed little enthusiasm. Finally, she leaned back, unimpressed. "Mr. Blake," she said coolly, "everything you've presented feels safe. Predictable. Do you have anything innovative? Something fresh?" Blake stiffened. He cleared his throat, scrambling for words. "Well, of course, our team is always thinking of new ideas, but we prefer to focus on strategies with proven results." Catherine's eyes narrowed. "Innovation requires risk. Without it, there's no growth." The room grew tense. Blake's confidence wavered. He glanced around, desperate for support, only to see Ethan still sitting quietly, clutching his notebook. Catherine noticed. "You," she said suddenly, pointing toward Ethan. "You haven't spoken once. Do you have something to add?" The entire boardroom froze. Heads turned. Ethan's pulse raced. Blake's jaw tightened. "He's just a junior staffer." "Hardly." But Catherine interrupted. "I asked him." All eyes locked on Ethan. His fingers trembled slightly as he opened his notebook. He took a deep breath. "Yes," he said finally. His voice was steady, though his heart pounded. "I do have an idea." He stood and walked to the front of the room, flipping his notebook to a page filled with diagrams. "It's about shifting our outreach strategy. Instead of targeting broad markets the way we always have, we focus on micro-communities, small, tight-knit groups with high engagement. We use tailored campaigns, not generic ones. It's less about spending more and more about speaking directly to people who actually care." The room was silent. Blake rolled his eyes, already ready to dismiss it. But Catherine leaned forward. "Go on." Ethan flipped another page. His scribbles became vision. His quiet voice carried conviction. He explained how smaller markets could snowball, creating organic growth. How word of mouth in niche communities was worth more than expensive campaigns. By the time he finished, the silence wasn't dismissive. It was stunned. Catherine broke it with a smile. "Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. That's the kind of thinking I've been waiting to hear." Ethan blinked, unsure if he heard correctly. She turned to Blake. "Why didn't you present this?" Blake stammered. "Well, I didn't think it was relevant at this stage." But Catherine wasn't listening. She was looking at Ethan now, her eyes sharp with respect. "Mr. Reyes, I want to hear more from you. Can we set up a private meeting tomorrow?" Gasps rippled through the room. Blake's face flushed with humiliation. The man who had mocked Ethan minutes ago was now being pushed aside in front of his entire staff. The power shifted. For once, Ethan wasn't invisible. Blake tried to recover, forcing a strained smile. "Of course, Ms. Liu. Ethan works under me. Anything he does is part of my team's efforts." But Catherine cut him off, her tone cool. "Correction. His efforts. If this company moves forward with me, it will be because of him, not you." The weight of her words landed like a blow. Blake's authority cracked. The boardroom he once commanded was no longer his stage. After the meeting, Ethan gathered his things quietly. But this time, people looked at him differently. There was no laughter, no smirks, only respect, tinged with envy. As Catherine shook his hand firmly, she said, "Never let anyone silence your voice again. The people who dismiss you are often the ones most afraid of what you're capable of." Ethan nodded, emotion tightening his throat. For the first time, his idea wasn't just heard, it mattered. The next morning, when Ethan entered the building, whispers followed him down the hallway. Not of mockery, but of admiration. His private meeting with Catherine would shape the company's future, and everyone knew it. Blake, on the other hand, kept his office door shut. His arrogance had been shattered. The man who once controlled the narrative had lost it to the very worker he tried to silence. And so the story ends with a lesson we all need to hear. Respect isn't about titles. It isn't about expensive suits, big offices, or loud voices. It's about ideas. It's about courage. And it's about recognizing that brilliance can come from anywhere, even the person sitting quietly in the corner. Because sometimes the ones dismissed as nobodies are the very people carrying the ideas that change everything. And when justice comes, it doesn't whisper. It speaks loud enough for the whole room to hear.